This is Noah Hoffman. Say hi, Noah.
Hi, everyone.
Noah has a tendency to ski with a pretty high tempo. He's been noted for it. For the past couple of years, the technique work that Noah has done has been focused on giving him the ability to open up his skate technique, to glide on one leg for longer, to take longer and, if you will, slower pushes, but carry more speed in the glide phase, and essentially to look for better economy. It's just at the same time, throughout that period, when we actually measure his economy, say on a treadmill at a fixed work rate and at different tempos, he continues to be most economical at his characteristic high tempo. A lot of coaches and athletes will recognize the concept of exaggeration when they're working on technique, and very frequently when an athlete is fixed in a relatively narrow technical bandwidth, exaggerating a component of technique can bring them into a place that looks a lot better from an economic standpoint. However, always operating in an exaggerated fashion, in a purposely exaggerated type of motion, will not result in actual economy in time. During his recent camp up at Stelvio Glacier, Noah skied 45 hours on snow and 11 days of training, and during that time he focused on exaggerating some of the elements of his ski technique.
On the Glacier, we put together a progression where I would start with just some laps, one lap, ski up to the trails, and then do one lap of just feeling out the snow, not thinking about anything. And then we did a progression where we started with going as low as I possibly could to the point of feeling a huge load in my legs to try to bring me down and give me more room to operate, more of a spring to use in my legs. And then we would do a lap where I would try to make it as long as possible, and we took that from the stuff we were working on last summer on the treadmill and the slide board to try to really lengthen things out and to basically have me use as few strides as possible around the whole loop. Then we did 2 laps where I was still trying to be low but not having tension in my legs, so not quite as deliberately low. And then we finished up with 2 laps of my interpretation of the whole technique, so taking these new concepts and entering them into the technique as I would use them in a race and seeing what I think is the most efficient technique.
This on the Glacier, Noah. I think the position looked just about right. Now it's like your hands are up over your head. You look like you're kind of taking a dump in the road. I can believe that you're feeling some tension in your legs right now. You must be burning. Okay, why don't we shift out of that and move into the slide board one where you lengthen the push. So this long push also is considerably more exaggerated than it was before. Not only is the position lower, but the push is much longer. And that doesn't look like it could be very comfortable either.
It's kind of hard.
Okay, what comes next in the progression?
Low position without tension.
Okay, let's move to that. low position without tension is also considerably lower than it was on the Glacier when we first started this, which is really good because the task is to expand your capacity exactly in that direction, to be able to ski in an overall lower position with fluidity and no tension. Why don't we go ahead for the uphill here and transition right into your interpretation. Just some good skiing. So what we didn't do any on the Glacier was practice high tempo. And the obvious reason is that you tend toward high tempo naturally. There's always kind of a gravitational pull in that direction. But since things have changed considerably with 45 hours of practice, going forward, just to keep the bandwidth open, and keep the options open for you, and maintain your strength, we're going to just start tossing in some short tempo pieces into your normal training. So let's see your high tempo skiing. So it's pretty common to have coaches give athletes instructions to do as much of one thing as possible. You should be as light as possible. You should be as low as possible. You should be as quick as possible. Your hips should be as forward as possible. The problem with that is that anytime the instruction is to go to an endpoint in terms of exaggeration and in terms of your physical capacity, we can be pretty sure there's not going to be good economy in the motions. So the goal we've had here in the last couple of weeks with that big block of Glacier time has been to open things up. And at this point, I definitely don't want you to be as low as possible because that's silly. 2 weeks ago, low as possible looked a lot better than your natural technique. It wasn't as economical because it was an extreme. It was an endpoint. But now, as low as possible is downright silly. And your natural inclination, your interpretation of the technique and the terrain has shifted toward what I hope is better economy. In the coming months, we'll put some tests in place to help really identify that economy. We'll do it on the treadmill, we'll do it outside, and we'll try to get a handle on whether the needle is actually moved in measurable terms in terms of heart rate and lactate at different tempos. And if that's the case, then I think it's going to be a really good tool for you. At very least, these tempo changes will give you the tools to move more easily and calmly in a pack race when the speeds are high and some of the guys are skiing really, really big and there's not really room to windmill it in there. So this is going to be an important tool set, and it's been a goal for a long time. I just feel like this process has perhaps really advanced the mark a bit. You can probably call that good. You got anything to add?
We're going to go from doing basically nothing but this repetition to just doing it once every 20 minutes in distance skiing.
So do you think spending 3 or 4 minutes of every 20 focused on these exaggerations is going to keep sort of a strong enough signal for you to maintain the adjustments you've made?
I think so.
I think so too. I think mostly once you've done the physical work, it's a question of keeping the neurological paths open and maintaining access to that stuff. So it's good. I think it's been a good thing. Nothing like 45 hours of focused practice in a closed loop to improve some stuff.
Yeah.